NFL free agency kicks off tomorrow, so don't miss a thing for your Dirty Birds. Hit that sub button, because when the Falcons start signing players, which you know they will because they got a ton of money to spend, you're going to want to be in the know on all the latest free agency news and rumors. So sub and turn those notifications on so you don't miss a single video. Welcome in to Falcons Today by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson breaking down some last-minute Falcons free agency targets, news, rumors, all that good stuff before the thing really gets going tomorrow. So here's what we got mapped out for everyone on today's show. We're going to take a look at 3 players that recently got cut and if the Falcons could/should sign them, right? We'll go one by one and break it all down. And let's start with center Ben Jones, coming potentially over from the Tennessee Titans. So Ben Jones, if you're not familiar, a former 4th-round pick from UGA, originally to the Houston Texans, has been a staple of the Tennessee Titans offensive line for over half a decade at this point. But the Titans got a new GM, and he is completely turning the roster upside down, and they moved on from a bunch of veteran players. So, does Ben Jones make sense for the Falcons? Well, speaking of former 4th-round picks, Drew Dalman was the starting center last season for the Falcons, all 17 games. And listen, when you look at the Falcons' offensive line, there are some really good spots, like Jake Matthews and Chris Lindstrom. Then there's some question marks, like Caleb McGarry, is he coming back? Elijah Wilkinson, is he really a starting left guard? And is Drew Dalman your future starting center? I think center is a position of need for the Falcons because I don't think Dalman showed me a ton last season to buy in on him being handed the starting job, right? You follow? I think Drew Dalman showed me a lot of good stuff that I could look forward to maybe seeing improvement in year 3 and his second full-time year starting potentially. But I don't think it's a runaway job and it's, yep, we can cross center off the list, moving on to the next spot. Dalman, when you look at his PFF kind of stats and grades and whatnot, it was middle of the pack. 65.9 grade overall. He was better against the run than pass protection. He gave up 27 pressures. He was, like I said, kind of average, maybe even a bit above average. I think he was all right. I don't think he was great, right? I don't think he's in a spot where we can definitively say he is the starting center and there should be no competition brought in whatsoever. So then we come to Ben Jones, right? And Ben Jones in 2022, he had some injuries, unfortunately, but let's throw his stats on screen now, and you'll see that it's an improvement, right? Ben Jones has been a very consistent and more than reliable center for the Titans. 72.6 grade overall. He only gave up 10 pressures, granted, in 5 fewer games, compared to 27 for Dalman, who can't rule out Dalman getting better and better. Like Ben Jones was in a similar spot early on in his career. I could see Ben Jones being a target, especially with the uncertainty at quarterback. If it's Desmond Ridder, hey, maybe let's help him out even more. Let's give him a nice veteran center to work with. The thing is Ben Jones is 33. He might want to just retire, right? This is kind of a point in his career where he goes, maybe this is the end of the line. Unless I'm going to get ridiculous money thrown at me that I can't turn down, which I don't think he will. I could see him being one of those candidates that he doesn't get signed and he waits for an injury to happen in training camp on a competitive team and he goes, all right, I'll go chase a ring with insert blank. But be the GM, right? Be Terry Fontenot. Should the Falcons sign Ben Jones? S for sign or P for pass. I'm not opposed. Definitely don't want to overpay. If they don't sign a center, I'm not going to lose sleep over Dalman being the starting center next season, but I do think it's an avenue that they could look to upgrade it. My second free agent target of another player that was released, this is Shaquill Griffin, cornerback for the Jacksonville Jaguars, or was the cornerback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the Falcons are definitely in a spot where they might want to add some more players to their secondary. I got 2 things to think of when it comes to Shaquill Griffin potentially coming to ATL. He only played in 5 games last season, so a bit of like a red flag because the best ability, everyone, availability. The Jaguars did save a lot of money by cutting him. I really didn't get the move, honestly, from Jacksonville. This wasn't a cut because he had a bad player and a bad contract. They just wanted to save money. And they gave out a lot of money last offseason. But Shaq Griffin's the kind of guy that you build around more or less. Now, he missed a lot of time in 2022. So we'll show you his stats before last season when he only played in 5 games. Before the Jags, he was with the Seahawks. And honestly, it felt like his career was, I wouldn't say going downhill, but maybe not in the direction where Seattle wanted it to be going. But with the Jags in 2021, I thought he played pretty solid. 14 games, 7 pass breakups. Sure, no interceptions. But his career PFF grades, it's not glamorous, but it's definitely CB2 material. 65.8 overall. 20 touchdowns allowed. Yikes. 6 interceptions is pretty nice, though. At the end of the day, I think the Falcons could be in need of a second cornerback or a CB2 opposite of A.J. Terrell, right? Not really sure what they're going to do with Hayward, if they want to hold on to him or move on to save some money. When we look at the Falcons cornerback depth chart right now, you've got A.J. Terrell. He's going to take care of one half of the field. Casey Hayward's definitely up there in the age department. He's got one more year on his contract. The Falcons haven't released him yet as I speak right now, so there's a bit of optimism of just running it back with him, which I think is a fine move. I thought he was pretty good last year, but maybe they want to go younger and try to really, push for a younger roster and not have some older players on it. I think Griffin would be a good CB2 alongside A.J. Terrell. Similar to Drew Dalman, I don't think this is a spot where it's a glaring need and it's, rearing its big ugly butt in front of you and you're like, we got to make a change here. So I could see the Falcons hanging on to Casey Hayward or maybe seeing an opportunity to go, hey, Shaq Griffin, that's a diamond in the rough right there. I don't know why the Jags moved on from him. Let's bring him on board. And him and A.J. Terrell can be our CB1, CB2 for the next 3 or 4 seasons in tandem. So be honest with me. Would you want the Falcons to go out and sign Shaq Griffin? Type Y for yes or N for no. Moving on to our third and final free agent target before the big dance really gets underway tomorrow afternoon. Bud Dupree, the edge rusher formerly with the Tennessee Titans. So we got 2 Titans players on today's show. I wonder why. I don't know, maybe because Arthur Smith used to be with Tennessee. We know the Falcons need edge help. This is their number 1 need, in my opinion, okay? This has been a horrendous unit for the better half a decade. Unfortunately, really go back to like Vic Beasley. So Bud Dupree, his last 4 seasons, he was really good with the Pittsburgh Steelers up until he tore his ACL. They ultimately decided to move on. 2 years in Nashville and 7 sacks over 22 games to show for it. Not what the Titans signed him or paid him a lot of money to do, but maybe a change of scenery, going back to, well, not his offensive coordinator, but the offensive coordinator when he was with the Tennessee Titans, you get the gist here, could help turn things around for Dupree. Listen, the Falcons' defensive line depth chart is up for grabs outside of one guy, and that's Grady Jarrett. Now, I think under a 3-4 defense, Dupree could be an outside linebacker, defensive end type of player. He could offer you a little bit of flexibility in that department. The issue is Bud Dupree is injury prone. But he will get after the quarterback when he's on the field. I don't know if the Falcons are really in a spot where they're looking to sign an aging defensive and outside linebacker mix, whatever, who has injury concerns, right? That to me seems like a move that a contending team makes mid-season, kind of like Ndamukong Suh to the Eagles, where it's like, how much juice can we get out of you for, 10 games since we're midway through the season? I will say overall, they better not shy away from signing anyone and everyone. Outside of the Bears, the Falcons have the most cap space going into this free agency period, and they need pass rushers, and they better sign a boatload of them, right? If the road ended with Lorenzo Carter, we riot. Like, we get our pitchforks out because that cannot be the only pass rusher that they sign. I'm sure it won't be, but I want to see some new life come into Flowery Branch and some new pass rushers to get after the quarterback. Now, speaking of pass rushers, the Falcons do have a top 10 draft pick. There are a lot of great edge rushers in this draft. Tyree Wilson has been mocked to the Falcons several times. Who knows? Jalen Carter, he could slip to Atlanta with some off the field concerns, maybe tanking his draft prospect, would be really nice for all of you Georgia fans and Falcons fans. But let me know, pick a route. Would you rather they address this need in the draft or free agency? Type D for draft or F for free agency. That's going to do it for us on today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in, making us a part of your day. We'll sign off and see you guys in a few short hours, really, because free agency gets underway at 1 o'clock Eastern. Noon Eastern, Monday morning. So we'll see you bright and early tomorrow with the latest on your Atlanta Falcons going into free agency.